This is a step-by-step procedure for installation of Apache Hadoop. It is easy to install Hadoop on a single machine and try it out. It is written in Java, so you will need to have Java installed on your machine, preferably Java version 6 or later. Hadoop runs on Unix and on Windows. Linux is also supported, but other flavors of Unix, such as the Mac OS X, can be used to run Hadoop for development. For most of this video, I will show you how to install Apache Hadoop on the Mac OS X. Download a stable release. This is usually packaged as a gzipped tar file. It is available for download from Apache Hadoop release pages. At the time this video is being made, the stable version is 2.6, so the idea is to download Hadoop 2.6.0 tar.gz and run the tar xzf hadoop hadoop star.tar.gz file. Essentially, you want tar the gz file that you download. When you untar your package distribution, you should see a bunch of different directories, including a bin, etc, library, source, and so on. This will be followed by the setting of the Java home on your machine, and we will do this particularly for the Mac OS X. On the Mac OS X, one needs to create a .bash underscore profile or a .profile file, which will be the one where we set the environmental variables. In particular, for the installation of Hadoop, we would need to set the Java home environment variable. To do this, from the command prompt, you can open an Emacs of the .profile file. Here's something you can type emacs.profile, open the window, and there you have an export statement which reads like the one shown in the figure, which is export Java home, and you set it to the directory user libexe/Java home. The way to see whether the Java home has been set correctly or not is to quit your Emacs terminal and source your .profile file. In other words, quit from the Emacs window and type source.profile at the terminal. After this, you can simply type echo $Java underscore home, and it should show you the exact directory and the version of the Java that is installed on your system. As the next slide shows, the JDK that is installed on my machine is the version 1.6. In order to test the Hadoop installation, you can type /Hadoop and the version. Ideally, you should get something like Hadoop 2.6.0 and compiled bit and some other messages regarding the compilation. This would show that you have a running version of Hadoop on your system. Each component in Hadoop is configured properties go in core site.xml. The HDFS properties go in HDFS site.xml, and the map reduce properties, they go into the map reduce site.xml. All of these XML files should be available under the /etc/hadoop directory from your Hadoop install directory, and these files need to be configured depending on whether one needs to do a standalone or a pseudo distributed implementation of the Hadoop. In earlier versions of the Hadoop, there was only a single site configuration file for common HDFS and the MapReduce components, but since the release 0.2, this file has been split into 3 and is used separately for each component. If the objective is to actually install a standalone version of Hadoop, there is nothing much to be done at this point. However, if the idea is to implement a pseudo distributed mode of Hadoop, where the Hadoop daemons run on the local machine, thus simulating a cluster, some configurations have to be made. In particular, the following properties: the fs.default.name, the dfs.replication, and the mapreduce.job.tracker properties need to be edited, and we will go into the details of how these can be done in the next slide. For the time being, we focus on configuring Hadoop in the pseudo distributed mode. The following configuration files need to be edited to run it in the pseudo distributed mode. These are core site.xml, HDFS site.xml, and MapReduce site.xml. All of these files are available from the /etc/hadoop folder from your Hadoop install directory. There are a handful of files that control the configuration of a Hadoop installation. The 3 most important ones of these are the core site.xml, which is the configuration settings for Hadoop core, including the I/O settings that are common to the HDFS and MapReduce. In order to edit the core site.xml file, we basically have to add tags, XML tags, property and /property, and within it there are 2 parameters that need to be filled in. One is the name and the value. In this particular case, the name is, for instance, assigned to fs.default.name, and the value is the HDFS localhost. To edit the HDFS site.xml file, we add similar tags as in core site.xml, except that the name is now set to dfs.replication and the value is set to 1. The final XML file that needs to be edited is mapreduce site.xml. Here the property tag is modified with the name mapred.jobtracker, and value is set to localhost 8021. At this point, we are ready to start the daemons in the pseudo distributed mode. One other thing that needs to be ensured is that SSH is installed and the it is better to make sure that the SSH to the local host has a login without a password, although if you do have a password, you'll just have to keep typing it a number of times. So make sure that SSH is installed and you have a server running. If you are operating in the Mac OS X mode, just as I am, you would need to ensure that the remote login under the system preferences sharing is enabled for you or the current user. Before it can be used, a brand new HDFS installation needs to be formatted. The formatting process creates an empty file system by creating the storage directories and initial versions of the name nodes of system data structures. Data nodes are not involved in the initial formatting process. In order to set up the HDFS and format it, you can run a command, Hadoop name node format. This has to be run from the /etc/Hadoop directory of the installation. In order to start the daemons in the pseudo distributed mode, one needs to look at the scripts which are located in the sbin directory under the Hadoop install directory. Specifically, you need to look for two scripts, the start dfs.sh script and the start yarn.sh script. The start dfs.sh script starts all the HDFS daemons in the cluster. It runs the name node on the machine the script is run on. So the three functions that it does is it starts a name node on the local machine, namely the machine that the script is run on. It also starts a data node on each machine listed in the slaves file. Finally, it starts a secondary name node on each machine listed in the masters file. The start yarn.sh essentially sets up a resource manager and a node manager on the local machine. When the start DFS script is executed, the name node, data node, and a secondary name node is set up. If you look closely at the commands in the terminal, you will find that the name node is first started up and followed by the data node and the secondary name node. You will also find that on execution of the jps command, you actually see the processes running, and you get to see that at this point we have a data node, a name node, and resource manager, and a secondary name node also running. The data node running at process ID 6993 and so on. When the start yarn.sh script is run, a resource manager and a node manager is set up. In order to make sure that both the resource manager and the node manager is executing correctly, you would run the command jps at the terminal, and you would see that indeed there is a node manager and a resource manager in addition to the name node, data node, etc. that we had run earlier using the startdfs.sh command. So in essence, in order to start up the whole process, you should have to execute both a ./startdfs script and a ./start yarn script. A final word regarding checking the installation of Hadoop in the pseudo distributed mode. You can check whether the daemon started successfully by either looking at log files in the logs directory of the Hadoop installation, or by looking at the web URLs. In particular, for the name node, you should look at HTTP localhost 570, and you will find that you should be able to see the details of your DFS. For instance, you can see how much memory is allocated and several other characteristics of the DNS. You can also see the name node and the machine on which it is running, its capacity, and other particulars. You should also be able to see the log files that were generated when the Hadoop configuration was running. And last but not the least, you also, under the utilities, you also have something called browse directory, which actually lets you see what are the files in your directory, which hopefully should be very handy once you actually move some files into your DFS. So happy working with Apache Hadoop, and as always, feel free to discuss the installation and its particulars on the discussion boards and learn from the experts in the class who have spent probably a lot of time working with Hadoop.